All right. Hello and welcome back to the Listening to Your Gut podcast. So stinking excited to have Jessica Johnson on the podcast. This is I kid you not, the sweetest human being on the planet. Like, I don't know of anyone sweeter than this human being. And how was I blessed to connect with her and just all the things? I don't know, but I'm so eternally grateful for this connection, for this friendship that we now have. And Jessica Johnson, she is an entrepreneur, a speaker, a podcaster. What is she not doing is the question. She's just a beautiful human inside and out. So Jessica, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here. And I could say all the same about you. I feel like the first time I just interacted with you, I feel like you have such an energy force around you where you just bring people into your world, they gravitate to you. Like I feel the feeling's so mutual. So thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that we're getting to have this chat because you are just an individual that I feel everyone needs to know. I mean, just the what comes out of you, your radiance is just incredible. And this book, I'm going to hold it up. This book is incredible. So we're going to talk a little bit about that through this podcast, but I really want to talk about just your journey to its entirety, like, from the beginning of time, not birth, but to the beginning of really like your health journey to now. So I think
Yeah.
this is really important. The book of, or the title of your book is The Bright Life, Your Bright Life. And I feel like what I what you showcase every day on social media and what your mission is you are showcasing that everybody can have that bright life, that it's not exclusive to one person or a particular way of living, is that we can all find that bright life in whatever lights us up. And so I'm so excited to talk about all those things today. So Jessica, let's just start with like your journey in health, because I know, like I just said, you were once practicing as a holistic nutritionist, and I would love for you to share what prompted that, because that was kind of like the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I'm happy to start there. Yeah. I love how you summarized that. So, okay. So for me, I started out in corporate, in communications and marketing, in writing. And, I liked the work, but I just felt like I was always looking for things that I could study and learn about in my nights and weekends. And I always was running blogs or working on like writing projects. And was interested in health as kind of a side passion. And so I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to go take classes and get certified in nutrition. For me, it was really driven by this desire to just find my own balance with food, where I felt like I'd spent so much of my 20s reading all the dieting headlines, trying this, trying that. I struggled with binge eating for a season in college. And ever since then, I was just like, there has to be a better way, a more like realistic, simple, enjoyable way to operate with food. And so I was always very curious. I was always looking for trying to find that path for myself. So began studying nutrition, and it opened up this world for me around how food connected to your energy and to your like vibrancy, how good you felt, how clear your head felt, how much, passion even you had in your day. And it just showed me this different way of thinking about food where it wasn't like, how can I control this or obsess on this, but instead like how good can I feel from this? And so many of the things that I'd experienced in health just got better when I started eating more whole foods, finding ways to make the things I loved, but in like little sneakier, healthier ways. And so I really fell in love with it. And I started to feel these instincts of maybe you could do this for your career. And at first I pushed it down and I was like, no way, I'm on the career track. Like I've got the job now. It's so steady. I'm not going to mess this up. But as you or any of your listeners may know, sometimes when you get that first little instinct and whisper, it just has a way of coming back and getting a little bit louder or finding other ways to introduce itself in your life. And so eventually, I just decided I had to listen. And I became so passionate about health and nutrition that I thought, I think it was what made me brave enough to take the leap and to leave my 9 to 5 and think, you know what? I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna build a business out of this, and I'm gonna help other women feel this thing that I feel about health and food and what it can be. And so that was like my first leap into entrepreneurship. And that's, I would say, where it really all began. Since then, as you mentioned in the book, it has had like a winding path. But for holistic health coaching, that was like the start of it. And then I'm happy to weave around, but we
Yeah, no,
talked.
that's incredible, and I need to deviate with a quick side tangent.
Yeah.
Jess has some incredible recipes, one of which is her protein cookies, which I love.
Yeah.
And by the way, we just had like a potluck at work at school, and I made those, and they were an absolute hit. So
Oh,
everybody loves
thank
them.
you.
It's just I've been spreading that recipe and giving you credit far and wide. It's just yeah, you've got such good recipes to share, so I love it. I love it.
You. Well, it's so fun if you want a little cookie or, for me, I'm someone I love food. I never wanted to give up
Right.
food or have it become something I liked less. So for
Yeah.
me, it's been actually, I love it even more now because I'm like, oh, I can have it every day and it still makes me feel really good. And there's so many more colors now. And it's such a bright plate of all kinds of things versus being like, let me minimize this or, put it in this kind of quadrant. So I'm glad you love that. I love that one too. I make that all the time.
So good. Yeah, and so simple too. I'm a
Yeah.
fan of healthy, of course, but simple. And it's
Yeah.
it's one of those that you can almost do with your eyes closed because it's just this very minimal ingredient list, but and fast to make. So I love it. I
Oh,
love it.
good.
Yes. So yeah, I think that's incredible. Just you, like you said, mustering up the courage, if you will, to really go forward with this idea, this thought on your heart that was kind of itching and scratching at you to then pursue holistic nutrition and it was brought on, like you said, by your own need to kind of and quest to understand yourself better and to find ways to really support yourself in the best way possible health wise. So I love that. That's very similar. I've told you this before, but very similar reason why I went into holistic nutrition as well. And I think, we can learn a lot ourselves, but then it's even better oftentimes for us to be able to then share that and say, hey, this has helped me. Let me share a little bit of this with you so that you can benefit from this too, because so much of that we're not taught, and it's
Yes.
unless you are making the proactive steps to go out and seek that information, you don't know what you don't know. So
Yes.
I think it's incredible that brought you to this place then of kind of fast forwarding to the book where you've created your I should not skip over this, but you've
Mm.
created your own business where you do copywriting and you have individuals who work for you that copyright, and then that led you to now here's this book, this incredible book, Your Bright Life. When did you realize that it was time to write the book?
Oh gosh. Yeah, so I think that was a dream I always had.
Mhm.
And you can probably hear threads of it even in the story, like having a blog nights and weekends, taking digital publishing courses. My major was in journalism. And then once I paired it with the health side and eventually transferred like the coaching to the writing for wellness brands, I think that's when I really started to realize, okay, I have this passion for writing. Um, maybe I could do more with it. And I think for me, one of the other things that the entrepreneurial journey led me to, which eventually led to the book, was just realizing like it gave me so much more freedom. So instead of, the traditional schedule I was used to, or like the hour commute each way I was used to, it opened up possibilities for me to be able to work from anywhere and to travel a lot more and, create a lot more freedom in my life and even start to envision like what my brightest life even looked like.
Yeah.
And I really identified with the woman who wasn't really sure and was kind of trying to find her passion because that was me for so much of my life. I was dabbling in different side hustles. I was trying to find the one. I wasn't always sure like what I really, really felt so fulfilled by. And and so I think having experienced that, it it taught me how to get to a place where you do feel like you know what you're lit up by, and you know how to work through your fears and taking chances and building something you really love. And I started to just notice those pieces connect. So even in the book, it kind of takes you through a different chapter of the creation process. So, like you start with how do you even get clear on what that looks like for you? And
Mm.
then how do you start to become it in your life and embody it and take actions towards it? How do you move through the fears that are there? How do you work with your beliefs? And so I think the book was really just born out of like having to figure it out and starting to feel like I was at a place in my career when I had more to say than what I could write day to day for other businesses, and wanting to say, okay, this is kind of my own message to the world. And here's what it would be.
I love that. And I love how you talked about in the book, it's a process, right? I love that first and foremost because it's not this go to from zero to hero. There are, incremental steps that you take along the way, and it's not linear. Sometimes you may be stuck at a phase, or you may have to go back and then return to a phase and then move forward. But I think the unique part of the book, oh, I mean, it's all unique, but I think one of the most unique parts of the book is you have questions at the end of every chapter for you to process through. And I think that's huge. Even if you're not a journaler, like you don't write it down, I think it's really good to reflect, internally in your mind. But then there's affirmations that go with each too. And I don't know about others who are listening, but I am a huge affirmation person. And I think that's when you hear those and you read that, you're like, yeah, that connects to like that's what I'm feeling. Like that's what I want to feel. And when you embody that, you then become that. And so I think those affirmations are huge in the transformation process, in building truly your bright life. So I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, I just think something I've seen with affirmations is they're almost things that they almost like don't feel true sometimes at first, where you can choose something that you almost want to lean into or become a little bit more. And at first, as you're repeating it, you're like, this, I don't believe this. How can I get there for me? But what's really interesting is when it becomes your default thought or the thing that you direct your brain to more often than not, you will be surprised over a few weeks' time how you do start to really believe that about yourself or whatever you're trying to create a lot more. So for
Mhm.
me, that was just like a thing I wanted to impart and put in there of just like, here's what your thoughts could be about this. Like, here's what your new thought could be if you feel like you constantly have this other one that you're trying to overcome. Here's a direction to send your brain. Here's almost like a new soundtrack to play. And so for each chapter, it kind of speaks to a different one, but I'm glad you like that. I really loved writing them and kind of sharing them as well.
It's incredible. And I think this is a another deviation, another side question that just comes to mind too. Through the book, you share so many examples of times that you pivoted as well as you took risks. And for the woman who's like, I don't know how to pivot, or I'm terrified to take a risk. I mean, you reached out to Ariana Huffington, and like you
Yeah.
ended up writing for her. So I mean, and for people who don't know, that's a big deal. That's a huge, writing project that you got to undertake. What what allowed you to do that? Like what mindset, tips would you give the women listening in, or just maybe incremental steps to build that confidence that got you there? I'm sure the steps of your book had a lot to do with it, but like just in maybe a couple quick reflecting thoughts, what might have, or what could help those women who are thinking like, gosh, I see what she's doing and I want to do that too, but I'm terrified. Like, where do I start?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, the first thing is I am terrified a lot of the time too. So I totally get that. And I think that's just a reaction to almost expect. I think we all almost have this either a training we get or something we think about fear where it's like if I feel the fear, I can't move forward. And in reality, and maybe you've experienced this too in your own entrepreneurial journey and building this podcast and everything, where you start to realize that like fear is kind of always there before taking a next step you've never done before, or learning something new, or going for what you really want.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I think that now helps me, now that I have some more evidence around it, is just knowing that fear is going to be part of this when you're really reaching for something that means something to you. Um, and then a big driver for me is like the fear of regret. And so, like with the Ariana Huffington thing, I knew she could say no, but I think I feared almost the regret of wondering what if more. So for me, that's helped me a lot of times with starting my business or the writing the book or whatever it may be. I think just I really don't want to get to 80 one day and wonder what could have been
Yeah.
in any of these. And so it helps me to get over that feeling of fear to
Yeah.
just be like, it would feel probably worse to not know, and so I think it just becomes a bigger motivator. So that's kind of the second thing, and then I think the third one is, like, you can trust yourself to manage a no and the emotions that might come up. Like, if you get a no, that's okay, like, that's just part of what happens. Maybe you'll send out 100 messages or 10 messages, and you'll get 90 no's, but that's still 10 yeses.
Yeah.
And so and just that knowing that you can handle whatever's on the other side of that. So there may be disappointment, there may be just, like, feeling a little deflated or having to figure out the next step, but, like, you can do that. You can trust yourself to do that. Um, and so that I think has helped me too, just being like, okay, I can handle it if I'm like rejected here. It's gonna hurt. And I, know that I'm gonna feel maybe all the things I'll have to like work through there. But kind of I think just building that self-trust every little time that like, okay, survive the last one. I'm good here. I can keep going to the next.
I love that. And I think I almost feel like a little bumper sticker on the back of a car could be like, you know, regret is going to be more harmful to you than fear in, the long run. Like, I just feel that if you sit there, like you said, and you think about it and you're like, what if, and you don't ever do it, then you don't know what could have been, right? Sure, you
Yeah.
could get a no from someone that you're reaching out to try and, write for or anything, whatever the case may be. But um, I think that really truly the regret is going to outweigh the fear,
Yeah.
and that definitely I resonate with that because that definitely is something that propels me forward is like when I'm thinking about, okay, well, I don't know if it's a yes or a no, but I'm not going to know that unless I try it. And, every
Yeah.
time I do it is a building confidence into my bucket and makes me feel a little bit more safe, if you will, to try the next thing. So I love that advice. I think that's incredible for the women listening in that are thinking, gosh, I'm paralyzed in fear. But
Yeah.
really, if you think about it, you're going to be even more, frustrated with yourself down the road from the regret if you don't even attempt. So I love that.
Right. At least you'll know either way,
Yeah.
and then you can handle it, and it's like, at least you'll know you gave it a shot, and so what if they don't get back to you? But at least there was nothing on your side you could have done to make yourself not get it, Whereas if you don't even try, then you basically blocked yourself off
Yeah.
already. So, yeah, I that's a big motivator, I think, for me, the fear of regret over the fear of whatever the thing is.
Yeah. Definitely. Bumper sticker. That's what we need.
Yes, we'll make them.
For sure. For sure. So I would love to talk about just your life now and how it is different than say 10 years ago. We'll get to some advice that you have for yourself 10 years prior, but like what has changed for you that you're just absolutely loving and that because of you doing the things, putting in the work, overcoming that fear and really using regret as kind of your catalyst of I'm not going to regret not doing this, I'm going to do it. What has that allowed you to be able to experience, and just what are some of the highlights right now that you want to share? Because I know you're in Croatia right now, so like not only that, but just share with the listener what are some things that because you've overcome fear time and time again and you keep pushing yourself to the next level, what have you been able to experience, and what is just some highlights that you would love to share?
Oh, that's such a great question. And it is really fun to think about, like, 10 years ago, I was in, a 9 to 5 job, which is fine. Like, that's so amazing, right? It's not even saying anything against that job. I enjoyed that job, but there was that part of me that was like, I wonder if I could build my own thing one day. I wonder if I could help women in some other way. And I was, like I mentioned, commuting an hour each way. I, was just really starting out in my career in many ways. And so, I think to have seen what's happened in 10 years, oh my gosh. I mean, well, now I'm able to travel. So I spent the whole summer working abroad this summer from, copywriting and, mentoring women in copywriting. I've started my own businesses and got through the ups and downs of a lot of the beginning businesses, figuring it out in the coaching space and going through my savings and taking on some business that I didn't expect and pivoting to the next thing, which was the copywriting. So just seeing having gotten through those, like I'm married now to a wonderful man, which I feel so grateful for and could have never seen back when I was like 10 years ago, going on all the dates I was going on and stuff. Yeah, I feel like we have a really rich like family life and friendships. I mean, so much. We even just became like digital nomads years ago and, sold our things, picked up, and we're like, we're going to put anything we would have spent onto our rent or monthly payment into traveling, into living out of Airbnbs around the world. And so we just made it work. We spent a lot of time in the winters in places like we lived out of a carry-on suitcase. But that brought so many adventures of travel and a podcast and a book. I don't know, it's been a busy, like, last few years now that I think about it. Mhm.
It's incredible. I mean, just like, those listening, your jaw's probably dropping because I mean, listen to all the things you just shared. Yeah, it's in a decade's time. So much you've learned, so much you've experienced. It's just a testament to, living your brightest life, and what that can do for you when you really desire something and you put your mind to it, you can make that reality. So I absolutely love that. I
You.
think it would be great for you to share maybe just a couple things that you would maybe tell yourself 10 years prior, and again, we talked about this before hopping on the mic, but of course we need to go through things to be able to grow through them and to learn. But if you could just be a fly on the wall to yourself 10 years ago and whisper a couple little things that could have maybe gotten you to where you wanted to be a little bit quicker or made things a little bit easier on yourself, what would you share to her?
Yes, such a good question. So one would definitely be listen to your gut, which is fitting for this episode, but 100% that's one of the biggest like bumper stickers of my life, I think, is just you'll get those little instincts and whispers and like they're there for a reason. I think logic in our brains, they try and keep us safe and they try and make these pros and cons lists, but at least for me, like there's just something about our hearts like knowing the truth for us. And so I would definitely say that. I think I've only really gotten into trouble for myself the times that I've tried to like maneuver another way. So listening to your gut. I think another one would be to not be as afraid of like making the wrong choice. So even before I started a business or, left corporate or, moved to New York in my 20s, I was so afraid of making the wrong choice in things. And what I realized is you can kind of find your way out or like you can figure out the next step in so many more ways than you think. So it doesn't all fall apart overnight if you make the wrong choice. You'll have every single day to kind of get a few more pieces and to pivot and redirect. And so I think that would have been helpful for me too, of just the self trust around it's okay, even if you make a mistake, like at least you'll have a memory for your life to look back on. At least you'll have gone for it. You can laugh about this later, and you'll probably find your way to the next right step a lot faster by just taking a step versus like sitting in indecision. So
Mm.
those would be big things. And then I think a third one would be just like being mindful of what you even absorb. So whether it's in your community, what you watch or listen to, the podcasts, the books you fill your mind with, like that's a big thing. Just what voices you're allowing to speak to you all the time, because we all probably have, different situations or relationships in our life where people won't get what we want to do, or it's just something unfamiliar to them. So I think it's almost on us then to just make sure that the things we're constantly listening to and absorbing become the louder voices in our head and remind us we can do it. And we listen to stories of amazing people who've done what we want to do, or we reach out to them on via email or on social media and maybe become friends with them. Like, you almost are you aren't able to choose the circle that you're, born with, but you're able to choose it every single step and season of your life. And so that's just, I think, would have been helpful to just know as kind of a life code from the start of like, you can fill your life with these beautiful ideas and paths and learnings, no matter where you're starting from. So that's been a big thing as well.
That's huge. I love all of those, and I really connect with that last one because I feel like for me that too was something that took a while for me to figure out. I spent a lot of my early adulthood years
Yeah.
looking at the glass half empty instead of half full, and it
Yeah.
was because I was surrounding myself with people, places, and things that were reflecting that. And once
Yeah.
I realized that's not getting me anywhere, that's not who I want to be, and that's not going to help me live a good life, a happy life, a fulfilling life, I started to make shifts. And in making those shifts, I mean, here I am today doing, I feel thriving and doing so many things that I love, and surrounding myself with so many people such as yourself that are just incredible reflections of what I desire to do and be and see in the world. So I love that. That is huge. That is gold.
Yeah, it's so important. It's just like, it's just one of those things that can really propel you a lot further. Where if you're always just coming back to a defeating place or defeating thought, it's really hard to make forward progress. You can, but yeah, to your point, if you can just do whatever is in your power to find communities online or in person, or just make it the things that you're constantly listening to, I think
Yeah.
that really can go a long way for just showing you what else is out there. We all have YouTube these days. We have unlimited, potential with the internet to teach us new things. So, yeah, that's a big one.
That is huge. And I mean, as we move into kind of wrapping things up, I would love for you to share if there's any future plans of like I kind of subtly hinted before we hopped on, maybe another book. I would love to see you write another book if that's something that you desire or you feel, a calling on your heart to do. Or what are some of the next steps for you, Jess, as just a woman, as a human being?
I know. Gosh, I mean, I do think that there's more books in me. I don't know what the next one would be yet, but just kind of like with the first one, I just jot down ideas as I get them, or, little hits from my intuition or whatever about what could be a fun idea to talk about. And I'm learning things. So a lot of times the books become like the lessons you're learning become the books and stories you have to write about one day. So paying attention to those. So definitely, I think a few books. Um, for me, I think there's definitely more travel. That's still something I'm so passionate about, and trying to check off a lot of the bucket list places in the next few years. Um, and then I think, communities are a big one. So we've had the blessing of traveling so much, my husband and I, but I think we're kind of getting to that next season where we're ready to have kind of maybe like a home base, maybe abroad and then maybe in the States, just so we can really form that community and people we get to know and love in a little bit more of a consistent one place kind of way, than we have been with traveling. So I think those, lots of family. I don't know. Even the career stuff is so crazy because you don't even know where it will lead you today. I have the podcast and the book and the business, but I think you don't even know what the pivots will be or what will come to you in a few years. So kind of along the ride for that one too.
I love that. I love it. And just letting it unfold the way that it's meant to unfold, right?
Yeah.
Just following the path that you're designing for yourself and seeing where it leads. I think that's
Yeah.
the best way to live,
Trying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, trying to do
Yeah.
it we can.
Yeah.
I
Right.
love that. And I want to talk about before we start wrapping things up, just the fact that you and I truly connected through me taking a course with you this summer. And so I just want to make a huge shout out to you right now about this course because it allowed me to experience and learn more about the copywriting business And I will say, for anyone who is thinking about maybe wanting to start writing for whatever corporations, health and wellness brands, education, like technology, whatever, if you have a calling to start writing and to impact more people with your writing, if that's like a calling on your heart, Jess is your go-to. I mean, the course is incredible. Jess has background out the wazoo. She has a journalism degree. I mean, all the writing experience she has is just phenomenal. And the course is laid out so succinctly and so just chock full of detail that it's not overwhelming, but it also leaves no stone left unturned. Like every question you have, the second you have a question, boom, it's answered in the next video. It's just, I don't know how you do it, Jess, but the course is incredible. So I would highly recommend that. And I just want to share that, I told Jess already, but I already have some leads and I'm getting ready to start working, hopefully with a couple different brands. So it's all thanks to you, Jess, because you've guided me down the path that is making this an easy transition for me into this field that could seem very daunting, at the start, but you've made it really very seamless for me to start dipping my toes in the water, so to speak, and then really, going for a full swim, if you will, into this field. So I'm so grateful, so blessed for us to have connected through that way. And Jess is one too that like once you meet her, you'll know what I'm talking about, but like you instantly connect with her and she's always there for you. I mean, the course is done, but I still have questions and thoughts, and Jess is still always answering my questions and speaking to my thoughts and just helping me to process. And that's a true friend. That's a true mentor. That's a true coach through and through. So, I mean, Jess, I just absolutely adore you is not even the best word, but it's the best I can do for now. If it's on your heart, you need to reach out to Jess because this course is definitely life-changing and it's really opened my eyes to the next steps for me, in health and wellness. So I'm super excited and super grateful for you having shared all of that with me.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud of you too, and how exciting you get to reach even more people through future articles and your words. But yeah, I don't know, I feel lucky to even be able to do this with women where it's like, who knew when I was sitting in corporate 10 years ago, I did not know there was a path in front of me that I was kind of doing already for bigger corporations, but
Yeah.
like that I could do as my own boss, where I could replace that income, where I could create 10 times the freedom schedule wise or location wise. And so for me, it's just like, let's get this in front of every woman who's just like working nonstop and like burnt out and like strategizing the PTO days and the appointments. And like, I just think it's, if you love to write, or even if you've never written, but you've just always been creative, or a lot of our students, they'll say, I always just kept like lists, or I like to journal, or I was a creative person. And so who knew that there was this opportunity here? So I'm so glad that you had that experience in it. And I'm just grateful. Thank you even for using your platform to share it. I just feel like I wish more women knew that this was an option if they do have that desire to build something and reach more people and do it with work they love.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. And I want you to be able to take a few moments or however long you need to share all the things that you're doing that women can connect with you and engage in with you. So of course they can purchase your book, which is incredible, Your Bright Life. But yeah, could you talk a little bit about the course and just how often you offer that? And then I know there are other ways besides the course that women can work with you too. That would be great.
Yeah, my pleasure. So if you go to hijessicajohnson.com, that has kind of anything that you might want to find, whether it's the book or the course or anything. But yeah, I offer the course a few times a year and take a group of women through an 8-week program that teaches them from scratch how to build a copywriting business. So you learn how to write, even if you've never written. You learn how to get clients, even if you have no idea what that's like. You get templates for everything. And you also just get, I think, the extra skills that make you stand out a little bit more to businesses, even if this is a brand new experience for you or you're bringing in some other background. So love teaching that. And then I have my book if you're looking for how to even come up with what your next chapter contains and work through some of the fears we talked about and get yourself in a place where you can, believe you're able to achieve those things. All the book will, touch on all that and more. And then I have the Bright Life podcast, which is just little 15-minute or so weekly episodes that touch on all of the above, right? Of like what it looks like to design your biggest, brightest life and go out and get it. And so, yeah, it's stories of women doing that as well. And I think those are all the things. I'm like, there might be something
Yeah.
else, but jessicajohnson.com will take you to all of them.
Website covers it all. Yes, I love that. And
Yeah.
then they can, of course, reach out to you on Instagram as
Yes.
well. Yep.
Yep. Same handle. Yep.
Yep. And I just want to say too, like you said, the resources in the course, phenomenal. I mean, I created a whole portfolio from the resources that Jess shared, and it's beautiful and it's
Yes.
professional, and I mean, it's so easy to put together. Not to mention the calls that you have with Jess are just, I mean, it's a one-stop shop. It's everything. I shared the course with several friends, showed them, what it looks like, and they're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And so yeah, they're super excited. I know I have several friends interested in joining. So it's definitely, like you said, definitely if you have the calling on your heart, and even if you have a creative niche in your body that you're like, oh, let me maybe just try this. There's so many different ways to copyright. You could do podcast notes, you could do social media, so there's so many different avenues you could take it. That's why I think it's just such a versatile avenue to go down. It's so
Yeah.
many different things you can do with it. So Jess, and the podcast, I have to say too, I every week when the new episode comes out, I'm like, I got to consume that right now. I just love listening to you. Your voice is so soothing, but then what you share is just gold all the time. You're just dropping all the nuggets. So I love your podcast. It is one of my faves for
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, likewise. I'm just so grateful for you. And yeah, thank you so, so much for just your time and even this conversation. It's been fun to think through all of those things and I don't know, just be encouraged by like what can spark your interest in one stage of life can lead to this whole different future. And that's the way health is too, right? Like you just get on that track where you're like, maybe I'll try experimenting with these recipes or this water or whatever. And it opens up this whole world and this whole new person you can become. So I'm thankful that, we got to even think about how those connected. It's been fun to remember that too.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you again so much for coming on today. This has been an incredible conversation, and I know we will have more conversations and hopefully in-person conversations
Yes. Give me a
enough.
big hug.
Yes, but again, thank you so much. And everyone that is listening and watching, please make sure you are going to follow Jess because she is an incredible human being. You do not want to miss out on all that she has to share, and just her aura is incredible. So thank you, Jess.
Thank you.